not one single country which is applying the Islamic political system.
Okay, what is the Constitution then?
But I have already told you this is the collection of laws prescribed in the Quran and the Hadith, the Sunnah.
So actually the Quran is the Constitution.
Quran is the basis of the Constitution, and you have to complement it by the Prophet's other laws, because in the Quran it is said, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ, what has been given by the Prophet you must adopt.
Okay, the second question.
Yes,
what
please.
is the role of women in the political...
As good as the man. There is no differentiation between man and good in as much as human rights are concerned, and as the Constitution is that code which more or less prescribes the rights and obligations of the individual vis-a-vis his fellow man and vis-a-vis the collectivity in which he lives, woman is absolutely on the same level as man and at par. I haven't seen at all, except for one thing in the Islamic jurisprudence, that a woman cannot be the head of a state, for the simple reason that the head of a state is supposed to be the head of the army as well, and the leader of the prayers as well. And as we know, Muslims do not allow women for very, I would say, physiological reasons that she would be to lead our prayers or to lead our army. I think the second question, you.
I wanted to ask about where does forgiveness stand in your religion? This business of cutting off the hand seems a little harsh to us. And how about forgiving?
In politics, there is no forgiveness. In society, there is a lot. In Islam, forgiveness is much more given attention really than in normal life. We are supposed to be very to forgive as much as we can, very, very tolerant. I can tell you as much that we are, in our history, we have proved to be the most tolerant political units ever existed in history. I would really emphasize this point, but when we talk politics, we are talking about laws, and when there are laws, you don't talk about forgiveness. You have to apply law first and foremost.
But stealing is not politics.
Stealing is only a sort of a dealing like any other offense, and you have to contain your society. I believe you want to say about the chopping of the hand, but you have forgotten another very important thing about it. But we are going now to more detail. In our religion, you cannot apply the rule of chopping the hand of a robber unless you have, or before you have already applied the other important corners of the religion, in a sense that if you supply everybody of his basic requirements, if you have given him all what he should have been given, not, you know, in our religion, you must, it is a must, it is like prayers, it is like zakat, it is like any other ritual or like any other injunction in our worshipping. You must teach him. So he must have food, he must have clothes, he must have dwelling, he must have education. And if he steals, and he is not, well, a sick man mentally or something, you chop off his hand. You say tolerance. How do you mean by tolerance? You want to tolerate somebody who is attacking your society. And I tell you about tolerance. If you chop a hand of one man, you can close your criminal court for 6 months. Nobody else will steal. So this is mercy and tolerance to me. I have been to parts where the hands are chopped, and you can leave your money in the street. Go to Kuwait up till now, go to Saudi Arabia, and leave your pile of gold. As you go to the markets, you see a big table like that, and a goldsmith, and they are very rich people nowadays. They have got a lot of money with their ignorance, so they have got that, and he puts blocks of gold on the table, and he simply gets a piece of cloth and put it, and take a stone from the road and put it on the cloth so the wind wouldn't take it away, and he would put a paper saying, I am coming after prayers. And he leaves the gold and he goes to prayers for 2 hours, gets his lunch and comes back. Go and do this in Chicago, sir.
why you feel that the lack of Muslim states is the result of colonialism. You state, I believe, that the reason we have no Muslim states now is that all the rulers have been set up by the West. It is curious to me that you should think that this is now still the result.
But why don't you read the Games of Nations by Copeland, and you will find what have you done in the Middle East, what have you done in Cuba, what have you done in other countries, you Americans, what you have done in other countries. Go and read the James Innings about the British Empire, what they have done. Lafront, read what the French have done in Algeria and Tunisia, and what still they are doing in Chad, and so on and so forth. I mean, these are not, I'm not exaggerating anything, but I don't like to hide facts. Facts are facts. If you want to tell me that you are not playing any part, you Westerners, in the Muslim countries, I think you are mistaken. And I can prove it to you. I'm just giving you the books written by the authoritative people who have been in power in this country. What the Americans have done, they have brought Nasser to our country, they have brought Shishikli in Syria and so on. And the British have done worse, the French have done worse. So we are still trying to get rid of the political power of the Western powers in our countries, and we are fighting with them.
I think you must be responsible for your own government, not make us responsible.
No, I am not making you responsible for what they do. I'm making you responsible for your intervention in our government, for your money which is given to us, for your plotting in our countries, for your fighting unnecessarily in other countries. I am not accusing the Americans, I'm accusing the Western poison mentality. It is enough. This colonial period should have come to an end. It's a pity that we are asking for humanity and you are talking about human beings and human rights at the same time. Only human rights can be applied in the United States and not elsewhere.
Well, when did this colonial era begin? Was the regime in Turkey that ruled the Muslim world? Was this a Muslim state?
No, it started, if you want to know history, in Sykes-Picot Agreement in 1914, when the French, the Russians, and the British, and if you want to see this, even here in your Congress library, you can read this Sykes-Picot Treaty, whereby the Islamic Empire should be split and distributed amongst the powers, and where any Muslim movement must be subjugated. It is
1914, the rulers of Turkey, that was a Muslim state.
It was a Muslim state.
So the colonial empire began then in
Practically, that was the biggest, but before that, in 1881, the British occupied Egypt. In 1982, they occupied Tunisia. In 1830, the French occupied Algeria. In 1911, the Italians occupied Libya. In 1912, they occupied, the French occupied Morocco with the Spanish. And Indonesia was occupied in 1845 and so on by the Dutch. So the occupation was there, not only 20 years ago. And to tell you this, the British stayed about 130 years in India, and when they left, they had 3% who can read and write.
How many could read and write before 1800?
We had a civilization, the Islamic civilization, which led the whole world for 5 centuries, when the Europeans were buying and selling men and women, when the serfdom was there. If you ever read the history of Europe, we had the civilization which brought to you all the Athenian and the Spartan philosophy. It was translated from Arabic to European countries, not from Greek. We invented most of the sciences on which you are building your present science. Algebra is an Arabic, is a Muslim civilization product. Astronomy is absolutely the same. Up till today, we have got in anatomy more than you have got. and so on. The only thing is this: we have been under colonization for quite a long time. And time will come when we can convince you that we are still as human beings as you are. And when you are convinced, you Americans and Westerners, that we are humans on the same basis as you are, you will listen better. But today, you are strong, you have got the atomic bomb, we are must supposed to be of another religion, though we believe in your religion. But still, we are inferior to you as human beings. It's a pity, because we must love each other. There's no point really in taking every man as superior or inferior because he doesn't belong to the same cult. That's wrong.
I think this is really a cop-out to blame the Western for all of the problems of
No, I am not blaming, but I am saying that you have done your best, and that was normal. When you colonize a country, you don't expect to contribute welfare to it. You want to get the best out of it. Don't tell me that the British occupied the whole world at that time because they loved everybody. No, they wanted to have everything for themselves. And don't tell me that you went to Vietnam because you loved the Vietnamese, they have got beautiful eyes. Never. You wanted to protect your country, you wanted to attack communism, and that was no secret. So you had an interest, and you were powerful, and you did it. I'm not blaming you. You were colonizer, and I expected you to do it. But what I expect from you now, that you are out, stop intervention. Leave us live our life. Let us have the chance to prove that there is another ideology which is better than Marxism and socialism. Just today, I'm sorry, I was reading in the Wall Street Journal a very interesting article by some of your leading economists and professors, and saying about this failure in your economic system, that there shall have to be a radical change in the social setup of this country. And it is normal, because these are the statistics. Black people here from 18 to 25 are supposed to be employed to the amount of 35% against 7 white. Why? Color is not nice?
You have the rule in your countries from 600 to 1800, and you had all this science. You know, you can't blame all of the problems.
I'm not blaming anybody. I expect, see, from a colonizer, I expect everything. I don't blame him, but I'm just telling you now, stop talking about equality and humanity and do something, for God's sake.
You're going to have to do for yourselves.
We are. Don't see. I am not saying. Look, you are not going to. I assure you, they will not get out. We will have to oust them, really. But you see, the idea is there are 2 ways of doing it. That we will try, and we are trying. We are trying to express ourselves. We are trying to make it easy for everybody. Because if you don't want to go, if you want to collaborate, if you don't want to treat us as humans, one day you will have to. But every action will have a reaction. So we want the reaction to be as easy as possible, so the action would be as easy as possible. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. I don't think I could ask you both together.
Sure.
Okay, the first one would be, am I correct if I say that, of course I'm switching the subject, am I correct to say that zakat differs from taxation and is more effective in distribution of wealth than taxation because it considers a percentage of the total wealth rather than the income?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, the second question is, how can we change the present state of Muslim countries in that they today seem to be so awfully leader-dependent? What I mean by this is that their fate and welfare depend on the charisma and conviction of the leader rather than the laws of the Quran.
There I disagree with you. And my own conviction is this. We have to change ourselves first. See, the trouble is, we have got now some intelligentsia. We are starting to learn Islam anew, to look into it as a real science. It is our duty as young people, new generation, to go back to our countries and to convince the populace, the man on the street, to educate him in this religion, to tell him what's the best for him. We have already tried democracy, socialism, communism, autocracy, monarchy, dictatorships. They failed because we have had our civilization since thousands of years built on different ideas, different traditions. We had the human value as basis. The human individual is sacred to us. But not matter, not material is only a means for the welfare, not the end of it. I should like to refer the audience to Fromm's statistics. The countries which have got the top who are in the top of the scale of the cost of living, of the standard of living, whenever you are, the richest countries in the world are these countries who have got the highest rate of suicide. And the United States is the fourth, by the way. So that is our way to come back. Yes, young lady. Everyone is equal?
Everyone is born good,
Yes.
good.
Everyone is equal, and the second word I couldn't hear it.
Born, if you were born equal,
We are born equal, yes.
So we are all born good, man is good.
Yes.
He only becomes bad by his environment
And his mind.
and his mind.
Of course, his will, you can choose to be good or bad. You are not born bad, you are born neutral.
Then where does the bad come from?
The bad comes from two sources. From your environment and your bad judgment, your wrong judgment.
If everyone was good, where would the bad come
No,
from?
I say everyone is born neutral.
I
You see? Now, either, but neutral by itself cannot stay. There is nothing in the world which continues to be neutral. You must go either positive or negative.
Why? If no one was
Be-
good nor bad, where would the drive
Is,
come?
now, look, you see, the law of nature is this. There is nothing static. See? So if the word neutral is only a distinction, it doesn't exist. It's a distinction between the positive and the negative, mathematically. And in physics, there is nothing completely neutral.
So how could man be born in that state?
And that is a fraction of a second. Practically, once a child is conceived in the womb of his mother, he starts being affected by the blood which he is assimilated. And this affects him. So we have to look after him from that instant. We have to see that the mother is giving him the right blood, and then she must be well fed, and she must be well treated, and so on and so forth. And you'll be astonished to know that 1,300 years or 1,400 years ago, this has been provided for in Islam. The woman who is pregnant has rights. The child in the womb of his mother has rights, has material rights, has inheritance rights. And she is entitled to a certain treatment because she is ignorant. She cannot be divorced, for instance.
Do you think that anyone has been born in that state as of date?
Born is as what?
Good?
Everybody is born good. Because all that he might have inherited is something maybe physically. Because of his father, mother, grandfather, he may be suffering a bit. But mentally, he has got a good mind. What's wrong with it?
So then he's not born neutral, he's born good.
In a sense, because he has already been born. But originally, there is no effect on his mind. Not yet, because before he is born, his mind is blank still. Now he starts getting voices, he starts getting new food, new air, and he starts something. Little by little, it accumulates. And we have to look at it. But there is no bad in human being, because I tell you a very simple logical reason. If you believe in God, God made him. And God does make things bad.
But as soon as he hits the air, then he's not neutral anymore.
No, he starts becoming positive in some ways, yes.
Positive?
Or negative. You may poison him when he's born.
So in that way, everyone is equal then,
We are always equal once we are conceived.
and then never again.
Equality continues as human rights continues.
So everyone in the world is still equal.
Still have the same right to enjoy his human rights.
Are they good then or bad?
Human rights must be good.
So everyone is good?
Human rights are good. You can make yourself good. You can enjoy your human rights as long as you behave in conformity with the eternal laws. Now, let me give you a very good definition for good and bad, and perhaps this would put an end to this interesting discussion. We conceive the good as the conformity of the law. Now, look, there are laws in nature by God, by creation, by existence. And to make it easy, take a physical thing. We know that if you put fire in your skin, it starts burning it. We know this by experience, and we can prove it by chemical analysis and by physiological conception. Now, we comply to this law, so we do not, if you don't want to burn your skin, you evade fire. We know also that there are so many physical laws in this world. So the compliance with the law of action-reaction, of gravity, of vaccination and so on and so forth, you are going the right way. You are evading something wrong, something ugly sometimes, something painful sometimes, and so on. There are also laws which concern human values. And these laws are difficult really to define or even to understand by human mind, as Ferguson, the philosopher, says. Man is endowed by a certain incapacity to understand himself, because we understand through our minds. Our minds are limited because they cannot at all conceive anything except what is reflected by our sense data, as Russell says. For instance, your mind cannot understand or imagine what is a value, what is moral. For instance, if I tell you, she is in love, and you close your eyes and try to think, what is love? There is no definition. So you cannot subject values to the power of meditation, because this power cannot conceive but what is reflected by our sense data.
So man in his own mind cannot decide between good and evil.
No, man by his will can find out, man by his mind can find the law. And he can follow that law by his will, because man is the only creature who has got a will. And will is practically the preconception of things, the imagination of action, plus the determination to start implementing what he has pre-imagined.
Where does the deciding factor come that gives him?
It is a combination between will and mind, because sometimes you think of something and you don't do it, and vice versa. Sometimes you want to do something and your mind doesn't go with it. It is this combination, when they come together, you start doing things. Is that clear? I'm happy. Yes, please.